Iran just got punched in the face by the world's biggest military, the United States. B-2 bombers dropped bunker busters on Iranian nuclear sites. Their nuclear facilities have been struck by never before used GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators, or MOPs. Now they have to choose how to respond, and every option is a potential disaster, but we're going to go through each of them. Let's break down Iran's potential playbook, analytically speaking. I'm not taking sides here, but, you can take sides based on the information you have. First option, the proxy war goes global. Iran has spent decades building a network of allies across the Middle East. Hezbollah, the Lebanese paramilitary in the south of Lebanon, which is the north of Israel, they've been degraded, but their capabilities may remain significant, though hidden for this time. If Iran decides to activate them and say go all out, unleashing them would be potentially disastrous for Israel, who's already used up a significant number of their interceptor missiles for Iron Dome, fighting Iran these last 9-10 days. The Houthis in Yemen are already threatening to leave the agreement they made with the United States and start retargeting US shipping. That could pop off and get very bad in the Red Sea. And the Bab al-Mandeb Straits. That's the straits south of the Arabian Peninsula. The straits north are, of course, Hormuz. We'll get to that later in the video. Iraqi militia are mobilizing for potential strikes against US bases. Iran could unleash all of these separate proxies simultaneously. Palestinian resistance might think, okay, now's our time to go all in, turning the entire region into an absolute battlefield. Second option, economic warfare. Iran controls the Straits of Hormuz, where 20% of the world's oil passes through daily. One word from Tehran, and global oil prices triple overnight. Imagine, good luck to Trump trying to convince the American citizens that already hate the idea of a war with war on the side of Israel, dying for Israel on the battlefield. Good luck convincing them that they now have to fill their tanks up at the gas station 3 times the price, and that's going to have a knock-on effect that might bring the entire American economy, in fact the global economy, why not, chuck it all in, yeah, set it all on fire, right, with the petrol that costs too much now. Iran might try that. It's an economic nuclear bomb Iran's been saving, and it might be that their view is this is the exact moment we've been saving it for. Triggering this is a gamble. It's a gambit. I've mentioned in previous videos, Iran will not do this. I said, in terms of my geopolitical forecasting, I said Iran will not do this because you do this and regional and international powers alike are forced to take action, and it hits everyone actually. China loves the oil coming through the Straits of Hormuz. China has this giant economy that it has to fuel, and fuel is needed, the black gold. Cut off the Straits of Hormuz, close the gates. China's going to be upset as well. China's then going to be forced to take action either on Iran's side or cut ties with its natural ally Iran, potentially an unspeakable, turn back or a pivot away from Iran, and force the straits back open by fighting Iran, right? Either way, China has to get more involved, which it doesn't want to do, right? And the US would be forced to decide how important blind support for Israel really is. And one thing I'll cover in my next video, Russia's position also hardens, right? Iran is flying their foreign minister today straight to Moscow to talk with Putin. I wonder what they have to say to each other. Russia is nuclear armed, fresh, not even fresh out, but fresh victorious from a proxy war where America basically thought, okay, we can't deal with the Russian bear, dropped Ukraine, I don't know anything about Ukraine, and just left, basically. So that's the position Russia's in. It's basically won against a NATO-backed Ukraine, geostrategically speaking. It's very much in its power to ally with, well, it's already allied with Iran. It's very much in its power to do something for Iran, support Iran in the Middle East region, if it wanted. Whether or not that's in Russia's best interest, we'll talk about in another video. It might be the next video, it might be a video after, because there's so many topics that I want to cover, so many questions that you guys have that I can provide a summarized analysis piece on, based on my experience, based on my research, based on my threat intelligence, professional capabilities, etc. So we'll have to, I can't guarantee it'll be exactly the next video, but that's the situation, right? China might step in, Russia might step in, Iran might close the Straits of Hormuz. That's a completely nuclear option. Imagine every single person in the world having to pay more for something or another, some sort of knock-on effect affected by the Straits of Hormuz closing. Iran might say, well, the world order is so trashed already. The West has once again shown that, diplomacy, de-escalation attempts, holding my punches back, nothing worked. I didn't escalate, but Israel managed to get the US involved anyway. So screw it. We're all gonna be poor together. Welcome to global sanctions, right? You sanctioned me, I sanctioned all of you. Straits of Hormuz are closed for business, right? They could do that. They could do that. Now, Iran has a third option: the nuclear sprint. Iran has enough enriched uranium to build multiple weapons, and after all, that's what Israel's been saying Iran is doing, right? I even mentioned myself that Iran may have adopted a nuclear hedging strategy, not having the bomb, but having the pieces in place so that they can rapidly put them together, assemble them, should the urgency demand it in the future. Using the US attack this morning as a reason, they could officially withdraw from the nuclear NPT, the Non-Proliferation Treaty, and announce they're going for the bomb. They could do that, right? Suddenly, this isn't about preventing a nuclear Iran then, it's about managing a nuclear Iran. They're nuked up. What do we do now? Like that's a very different dynamic on the world stage. And as history has shown, unfortunately, I can't even say for better or worse, unfortunately, as history has shown, if you want the Western powers to treat you fairly, you show not consideration, not humility, not restraint. None of these, weak characteristics will get you anywhere. You show strength. Peace through strength is honestly the only formula so far, analytically speaking, that has worked with the West. Any sign of weakness, they jump on it and they maintain the order where the West is right at the top and the rest are below them, and everyone has to fall in line or get absolutely ruffle stomped, essentially, to use gamer quote. You get absolutely cooked, you get smoked, right? Russia is the most recent success story of this strategy of peace through strength. They came into Ukraine, NATO supported Ukraine, Russia doubled down, kept pushing, and then NATO basically sort of fragmented, Western Europe panicked, the US yeeted itself out with Trump at the helm. Trump's now adopting the Russian stance, right? It's saying, Ukraine, contributed to the start of this war. It wasn't all Russia. Russia bad is not the narrative that gives the full picture. Trump is accepting the Russian grand narrative. So Russia demonstrated, you just have to hit them hard enough, and they suddenly come to their senses. Like punching a bully back, that's the only thing that gets a bully sort of listening to you. Otherwise, they don't respect you. They'll just keep stepping over you. That's the analytical theory that peace through strength is the only language that the West understands. Now, Iran so far, the most recent example of how trying to de-escalate just gets you backslapped harder, right? So maybe they'll switch tack. Maybe they'll think, okay, holding back my punches, forget it. Let me just punch with everything absolutely that I've got, right? I'm already on the way down now that the US has stepped in, even though I didn't escalate. They might think that, right? Fourth option, the China card. Beijing needs Iranian oil and hates American dominance, but so far has not been forced to take action. They haven't been forced to make a move yet, so they've been quietly developing, quietly growing, quietly increasing their sphere of influence, economically speaking. Iran could formally invite Chinese military protection for some sort of concession or some sort of Iranian alignment with China that benefits China greatly, turning this into a great power conflict. One side you'll have Israel backed by America, and the other side you'll have Iran backed by China. Oh no, I smell World War III. Fifth option, asymmetric chaos. Cyber attacks on American infrastructure, executed by Iranian cyber divisions, potentially with Russian and Chinese help. Those two states also have very robust cyber capabilities. I work in cybersecurity, and let me tell you, these three states, for the amount of money they have, far outstrip what the West can manage, right? Far outstrip what the West can manage. Now, if you don't take into account the money they have, you just look at cyber capabilities, it's about evenly matched, actually, right? Israel has great cyber capabilities. The US has great cyber capabilities. There's Five Eyes in the Western world, which is the 5 countries that share intelligence. Their cyber capabilities are, fantastic, basically, in terms of effectiveness. But Russia, China, Iran, they have extremely good cyber capabilities. Saudi Arabia too, but that's kind of leaning on the Western side because they're well within Western sphere of influence. So cyber capabilities here, big headache if this is the track that Iran chooses to go down, as in the cyberspace, plausible deniability, basically saying, I don't know, that wasn't me, I don't know where the hack came from, even though they were speaking Chinese in the chat. That kind of situation might unravel, right? That might unfold, and that's a way for Russia and China and Iran to fight back against the US without actually, China actually fighting directly with the US. They can just say, I don't know, I didn't hack you at a state level, but I might have helped the hackers, but you can't prove it. So that's the situation it might get to. Now it's much easier. What I'm saying is much easier to deny cyber attacks than real attacks. As I was saying, it's easier to avoid a direct confrontation but still do damage through cyber attacks. Now, Iran's Revolutionary Guards and the state cyber capability has the ability to cause massive trouble to America where they're most vulnerable, arguably, the domestic population who don't have a desire for war. Fan the flames there, helping the domestic population in America say no to war, no to war. And what started out as an Israeli desire for regime change in Iran could end up as regime change in Israel and chaos in America, potentially regime change in America. Not that likely. But here's Iran's biggest challenge. And you might have realized, congratulations, you've gone past the 10-minute mark. I've somehow managed to make a TikTok video longer than 10 minutes. That's how bad this crisis potentially could get. My videos have broken, the TikTok rules. Now, here's Iran's biggest challenge. They can't win a conventional war against America. So they have to choose between submission, which the Iranian government may not be able to survive, or escalation, which the Iranian country as a whole may not be able to survive. That's the corner Trump has backed them into. The corner Israel is delighted to see Iran in. But a cornered animal has to fight for its life. You'd be surprised how capable such a beast can be. And if you can't kill something, wounding it and then cornering it so it has to fight for its life is a fast way to get yourself killed. Trust me. Source, trust me, bro. Time will tell how things turn out, and I'll be here to report to you the news and the analysis unbiased and without the Western spin. Something that's very hard to get, by the way, in the English-speaking language. Even on TikTok, I see pro-Westerners who blindly support the Western narrative, and I think, why are you even on here? Just, your followers can just watch BBC or Sky News. But what can my followers watch? Where are you going to get unbiased, without the Western spin, news delivered in a summarized way in English? I'll tell you where. My name is Mahfouz Talukdar. That's where, and I'll see you on the next one.